Imagine you get that call, right? Your daughter's missing.
Oh.
But instead of help, you're told she's an adult, so it's not a real case yet.
Uh,
That's just the beginning of the story we're diving into today.
okay.
It's the case of Scott Kimball, a.k.a. Hannibal,
Right.
a con man who left a trail of heartbreak and questions across the West.
Yeah, what's really interesting about this deep dive is we're going beyond just the timeline.
Hmm.
We're using firsthand accounts from families and law enforcement to
Wow.
understand how this happened, how Kimball manipulated so many for so long.
Our journey starts with 3 disappearances,
Okay.
each shrouded in mystery.
Yeah.
First, there's Leanne Emery.
Mm-hmm.
January 2003, her car turns up, abandoned in the Utah Canyonlands.
Right.
Beautiful but desolate.
Yeah.
Imagine being her father, Howard.
Mm-hmm.
You're combing through her emails, desperate for a clue,
Right.
and you find mentions of a Hannibal who was supposedly protecting her.
Right. And this protector figure,
Yeah.
it's a recurring theme with Kimball. He positions himself as someone who can help someone with connections,
Yeah.
especially to vulnerable people.
Then just a few months later, August 2003,
Mm-hmm.
19-year-old Casey McLeod vanishes.
Right.
Her parents, Rob and Lori, hit that same wall. She's an adult, come back when there's evidence.
Yeah.
It's agonizing because parents know when something's wrong.
That initial frustration of the families is so important to understanding this case.
Mm-hmm.
They were essentially shut out of the investigation at first,
Wow.
which allowed Kimball more time to operate unchecked.
And to make matters worse, there's a third disappearance
Okay.
interwoven with all of this.
Mm-hmm.
Jennifer Markham,
Yeah.
a single mother, vanishes in February 2003.
Right?
But here's a twist.
Okay.
The FBI had actually found her abandoned car at Denver Airport a year earlier.
What?
They just never told her family.
This really highlights the communication breakdowns that
Yeah.
can occur within law enforcement.
Yeah.
It's a tragic oversight with huge consequences.
It's almost unbelievable how these seemingly separate cases start to connect.
Right.
Leanne's secret life of bad checks and credit card fraud. Casey's father's growing suspicion of Scott Kimball.
Yeah.
It's like threads leading to the same spider at the center of the web.
Exactly. And as we delve deeper, you'll see how Kimball wasn't just a petty criminal.
Right.
He was a master manipulator,
Mhm.
using charm and lies to exploit people.
Wow.
He even convinced the FBI that Jennifer was part of a murder-for-hire plot.
Wait, so he used a completely made-up story to get the FBI on his side.
Precisely.
Wow.
And not only that, he managed to get released from prison to work as an informant on this fake case he concocted.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
It's almost like he was playing a game using the system against itself.
Right?
What I find disturbing is that Kimball often targeted women who were already facing challenges. Take his relationship with Lori McLeod,
Right.
Casey's mother.
Yeah.
He marries her just a month after Casey disappears,
Wow.
promising to use his connections to find her.
That marriage so soon after a tragedy is a huge red flag.
Yeah.
It speaks to Kimball's predatory nature, using Lori's grief and desperation to his advantage.
Right.
He even planted drugs to get Casey out of the house before her disappearance.
It's like he was systematically isolating these women, making them more dependent on him.
Yeah.
He was building a web of control and they were getting caught in it.
And you're right, that theme of isolation is key to understanding Kimball's methods.
Okay.
He created a world where his victim support systems were eroded, making it easier for him to control the narrative and manipulate those around him.
So we've got these families frantically searching while Kimball's pulling strings in the background,
Right.
using his supposed FBI connection as a shield.
Right.
But even the most cunning con men make mistakes.
That's right. And in Kimball's case, it was a trail of bad checks that tripped him up.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Detective Gary Thatcher of the Lakewood Police Department was investigating a string of check fraud cases, and Kimball's name kept popping up. It was during one of those investigations that Thatcher first encountered Lori McLeod
Right.
and learned about Casey's disappearance.
So a seemingly routine financial crime suddenly becomes linked to a missing person case.
Yeah.
That must have been a huge turning point for Thatcher.
Absolutely. And as Thatcher started digging, he uncovered Kimball's lengthy criminal history.
Wow.
This wasn't just a small-time con man.
Right.
We're talking multiple felony convictions, prison stints across several states.
Oh.
It painted a very different picture than the helpful informant persona Kimball was projecting.
It's mind-boggling how he managed to conceal this side of himself from the FBI for so long.
Well, that speaks to Kimball's mastery of deception.
Yeah.
He was a chameleon, adapting to his surroundings, telling people what they wanted to hear.
Right.
He also benefited from a siloed system.
Mm-hmm.
The FBI agents working with him as an informant weren't necessarily privy to the details of his past crimes.
It's a chilling reminder of how easily someone can exploit gaps in communication and information.
Mm-hmm.
So Thatcher's in Colorado, piecing things together.
Yeah.
But fate intervened on the other side of the country.
Okay.
FBI agent Jonathan Grusing, working a seemingly unrelated case, stumbled upon a connection to Kimball.
Interesting.
He was interviewing Jennifer Markham's boyfriend, who was incarcerated at the time.
Okay.
And the inmate mentioned another guy in prison,
Right.
Kimball,
Yeah.
whose girlfriend had also vanished.
This is where those seemingly isolated threads start to weave together.
Okay.
That missing girlfriend was, of course, Leanne Emery.
Right.
Agent Grusing reached out to Leanne's father, and as they compared notes,
Mm-hmm.
the similarities were striking.
Wow.
Both women were connected to Kimball. Both had disappeared under mysterious circumstances.
So the scope of the investigation expands.
Yeah.
And suddenly they're dealing with a potential serial predator.
Right.
What happened next? Did investigators confront Kimball with this new information?
They did, but Kimball, true to form, denied any involvement. He was a master of deflection, spinning elaborate tales playing the victim.
Wow.
He even claimed he was being framed by the very people he had manipulated.
It sounds like he was trying to sow seeds of doubt, create confusion, and buy himself more time.
Exactly.
Did the investigators have any hard evidence at this point to link him to the disappearances?
They were building a case, but they needed that irrefutable proof.
Okay.
And it came from a rather unexpected source.
Oh.
A casual remark from Kimball himself during an interview.
Okay.
He mentioned a girl who had overdosed on drugs and died on national forest land.
It seems almost too convenient, like he was deliberately letting something slip.
It's possible he was feeling the pressure, getting cocky.
Mm-hmm.
Either way, Agent Grusing, who had a remarkable memory for details,
Okay.
recalled seeing a receipt that placed Kimball in Walden, Colorado, near a national forest.
Wow.
Around the time Casey McLeod vanished,
Okay.
he contacted the Forest Service,
Mm-hmm.
and it turned out a skull had been found in the area where Kimball was known to be.
What are the odds, I imagine, that discovery sent shockwaves through the investigation?
DNA testing confirmed that the skull belonged to Casey McLeod.
Wow.
They finally had concrete evidence linking Kimball to one of the disappearances.
Right.
The Scott Kimball case was no longer just a missing persons case. It was officially a homicide investigation.
Right.
And with that, the pressure on Kimball intensified.
But Kimball, even when backed into a corner, was a formidable opponent.
Right.
He continued to deny involvement, claiming Casey's death was an accidental overdose.
Mm.
He was banking on the fact that the bodies of the other women would never be found,
Right.
that his secrets would remain buried.
And to some extent, he was right.
Yeah.
Searching for remains in the vast wilderness of the American West is like looking for a needle in a haystack.
Right.
It requires resources, manpower, and a lot of luck.
Yeah.
But the families of the victims refused to give up hope.
Wow.
They kept the pressure on law enforcement, organized searches, and kept their daughters' stories in the public eye.
Their determination is truly inspiring.
Yeah.
But facing mounting evidence and the prospect of spending the rest of his life in prison, Kimball decided to cut a deal.
He did. He offered to lead investigators to the bodies of Leanne Emery and Jennifer Markham
Okay.
in exchange for avoiding first-degree murder charges.
Wow.
It was a gamble for both sides.
Right.
The prosecution risked a lighter sentence for Kimball,
Yeah.
but they also saw an opportunity to bring closure to the families of the victims.
Right.
And for Kimball, it was a chance to exert some control over the narrative,
Okay.
to try and salvage a shred of dignity in the face of his monstrous acts.
So in the winter of 2009, Kimball, accompanied by a team of FBI agents and local law enforcement, embarked on a chilling journey through the remote canyons of eastern Utah.
Right.
He claimed to know where the bodies were buried,
Yeah.
but could he be trusted?
Right.
And would they find what they were looking for after all these years?
That's the question that hung heavy in the air as the search team navigated the treacherous terrain. They were following in the footsteps of a killer, retracing his path through the wilderness,
Right.
hoping to find some trace of the women who had vanished.
Mm-hmm.
It was a tense and emotional journey, a race against time and the elements
Yeah.
as they tried to piece together the puzzle of what happened all those years ago.
So Kimball's leading the FBI on this grim treasure hunt through the Utah canyons. It's almost like he's directing a play, trying to maintain control even as everything falls apart.
This wasn't just about finding the bodies, it was psychological.
Yeah.
Kimball was testing them, their patience, their resolve.
Right.
He'd lead them to an area, claim it was the burial site, then backtrack saying he was
It
mistaken.
must have been infuriating for the investigators, knowing he had the key but was toying with them.
Absolutely, and agonizing for the families hoping to finally bring their daughters home.
Right.
But amidst the frustration, there were glimmers of hope. Agent Grusing, with his sharp eye, noticed something unusual near a boulder, a few scattered bones, and then hidden under a nearby rock, a hair clip with strands of hair still attached.
It's a small detail, but so powerful a reminder. This wasn't just a game, it was about real lives.
Exactly. And for Grusing, something about that hair clip just felt right.
Yeah.
Deep down, he knew it was Leanne. Lab tests later confirmed it.
After 6 years, they had finally found her.
Yeah.
What a mix of emotions that must have been for her family relief. Grief, anger, maybe even vindication.
Absolutely, a bittersweet victory.
Yeah.
And the discovery provided crucial evidence.
Okay.
A spent bullet casing found near Leanne's remains matched Kimball's gun,
Oh, wow.
indicating she hadn't just disappeared, she had been executed.
It's chilling to think of the cold calculation behind that act. But what about Jennifer Markham?
Sadly, no.
Yeah.
Despite claiming to know the area where he had buried, Jennifer's extensive searches yielded nothing.
Wow.
Canine units, geologists, aerial surveillance, all deployed and still no trace.
So even after striking a deal, he was holding back, clinging to this last shred of power.
It seems so. He claimed it was dark when he buried Jennifer, and he'd only been there once.
Right.
But investigators believe he was deliberately withholding information,
Yeah.
perhaps as a twisted form of revenge or a way to maintain some control from behind bars.
It's a devastating blow for Jennifer's family, left without that closure, that chance to say goodbye.
Absolutely. Their fight for justice continues to this day.
Yeah.
But with the discovery of Leanne's remains and the mounting evidence, the legal process moved forward.
Okay.
In October 2009, the courtroom was packed with anticipation and grief.
Right.
After years of waiting, the families of Kimball's victims were finally going to face him.
It must have been a cathartic experience for them to confront the man who'd caused so much pain.
It was many delivered powerful victim impact statements,
Yeah?
their words echoing the profound and lasting impact of Kimball's crimes.
Wow.
Rob McLeod, Casey's father, spoke of the agonizing years spent wondering what had happened to his daughter.
Right.
The sleepless nights, the constant ache in his heart.
It's hard to imagine the depth of that pain, that sense of loss.
And Howard Emery Leanne's father addressed Kimball directly, his voice trembling with grief and anger.
Yeah.
He called Kimball a liar, a deceiver, a murderer who robbed his daughter of her dreams.
Amidst all this, how did Kimball respond? Was there any remorse?
Yeah.
Any attempt at an explanation?
That's what's so disturbing. He remained detached,
Wow.
refusing to fully confess to the murders of the three women.
Really?
He admitted to killing his uncle Terry Kimball for financial gain,
Okay.
but when it came to Leanne, Jennifer, and Casey, he offered vague explanations, even suggesting others might have been involved, but refused to name names.
It's like he was still playing games even when facing decades behind bars.
It was his final act of manipulation, leaving a trail of unanswered questions, denying the family's complete closure.
So in the end, was justice served?
Kimball was charged with second-degree murder and, after pleading guilty, sentenced to 70 years in prison.
Wow.
It was a victory for the prosecution and a testament to the perseverance of the families. Yeah. But the case also exposed flaws within the system, the risks associated with relying on informants, and the devastating consequences of those oversights.
It's a stark reminder that even with a conviction, some wounds never fully heal.
Right.
2 families were able to bring their daughters home. But for Jennifer Markham's family, the search continues.
Yeah.
Her father, Bob, remains hopeful that one day he'll be able to lay his daughter to rest.
It's a tragic reminder that even when the legal process ends, the human story goes on. The Scott Kimball case is a testament to the enduring strength of those who fight for justice, and the importance of holding those in power accountable so that hopefully such tragedies can be prevented in the future.
It's a story that stays with you, reminding us that even in the darkest corners, hope and resilience can shine through. If you found this deep dive insightful, be sure to subscribe for more in-depth explorations of compelling stories that matter. Until next time.